We asked everyone in attendance at the first night of the first Republican debate who they believed won the debate. Here are the results. In first is Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse, who was at center stage, at 23.5%. This is good news, as most people seems to have believed he had won the debate. And second is Texas Governor Greg Abbott at 17.6%. And third is Maryland Senator Larry Hogan at 17.5%. And fourth is former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley with 17.4%. And fifth is former HUD Secretary Ben Carson with 11.8%. And sixth is South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem with 5.9%. And seventh is Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton with 5.8%. The final three candidates, Florida Senator Rick Scott, Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, all sit at 0%, which is terrible news for their campaign. This insinuates that voters believe these three candidates are all considered losers of the debate. Going on to post-debate opinion polls, starting with the most popular candidate, Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, who now sits at as 47.1% favorable, a net increase of 21%, the largest increase in favorability among any of the candidates. He is 29.4% unfavorable, a 10% decrease from before the debate. And 23.5% of voters currently have no opinion of him, an 11% decrease, which, based off the data, most of the undecided voters now approve of Tom Cotton rather than disapprove. Next is Maryland Senator Larry Hogan. He is 41.2% favorable, a 10% decrease from before the debate. He is 29.4% unfavorable, a 4% increase from before the debate. And 29.4% of voters have no opinion of him, a 15% increase. Most of the voters who used to approve of Hogan are now starting to question whether Hogan is a good choice or not for the nomination. Next is Congresswoman Liz Cheney. She is 47.1% favorable, a 13% increase from before. The once unpopular Never Trump candidate is now starting to win over more voters post-debate. She is 41.2% unfavorable, a 6% increase, and 11.8% of voters have no opinion of her, a 20% decrease. Both her favorability and unfavorability has both increased, meaning she is becoming a very polarized candidate for the nomination. Next is Secretary Ben Carson, who is 41.2% favorable, a 13% decrease. He is 35.3% unfavorable, a 6% increase, and 23.5% of voters have no opinion of him, a 6% increase. Voters are starting to lose support among Republicans, and this could end his campaign. Next is Ambassador Nikki Haley. She is 35.3% favorable, an 11% decrease, 29.4% unfavorable, a 5% decrease, and 35.3% of voters have no opinion of her, a 16% increase. Similar to other candidates, Haley's support seems to be dwindling among voters. Next is Governor Kristi Noem. She is 41.2% unfavorable, a 7% decrease. She is 41.2% unfavorable, a 1% decrease, and 17.6% of voters have no opinion of her, a 9% increase, meaning voters in general, those who both oppose and support her, are questioning their decision. Next is Governor Greg Abbott. He is 35.2% favorable, a 4% decrease, 41.2% unfavorable, a 6% increase, 23.5% of voters have no opinion of him, a 12% increase. Abbott is losing support among the Republican base, which could spell trouble for his campaign. Next is Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse. He is 29.4% favorable, a 19% decrease. Terrible news despite him being considered the winner of the first debate. 35.3% unfavorable, a 1% decrease, and 35.3% of voters have no opinion of him, most of which once viewed Senator Sasse favorable. Next is Senator Rick Scott. He is 35.3% favorable, a 1% decrease. He is 47.1% unfavorable, a devastating 13% increase. And 17.6% of voters have no opinion of him, a 12% decrease, many of whom now view Scott as unfavorable, leaving him a negative 11.8 favorability, 15% decrease from before the debate, meaning voters don't have a positive opinion of him post-debate. Finally, the most unpopular candidate that was on the debate stage, former Governor Chris Christie. He is 29.4% favorable, a 3% increase. 41.2% of voters view him as unfavorable, a 16% decrease, and 29.4% of voters have no opinion of him, a 12% increase. Many voters who viewed Christie as unfavorable are now reconsidering their opinion of him. This gives him a negative 11.8 favorability, a devastating 19% decrease from Welcome back to St. Edward's University for Night 2 of the first Republican primary debate, hosted by Fox News. Our moderators for the night are Alicia Cune, Raymond Arroyo, and David Osmond. Now, let's meet the candidates. At center stage, news host Tucker Carlson, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, New Hampshire Senator Chris Sununu, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, Utah Senator Mitt Romney, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, West Virginia Governor Jim Justice, former Vice President Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, that was a gaffe, and rapper Kanye West. Rules for the debate follows. Rule 1, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer questions. Rule 2, if the moderator asks for a follow-up, the candidate will have 30 seconds. Rule 3, rebuttals will be given for 30 seconds. And Rule 4, candidates will have 30 seconds to respond to a rebuttal. Onward to opening statements. Mr. West, nobody thought I would be a successful candidate. Nobody believed I would make the debate stage here tonight, let alone the main stage of the top 10 candidates. Well, I am here to tell you that those people were wrong, and I am here amongst the other top polling candidates, proving I am not a joke candidate. I am a serious contender for the nomination. You can call me the Black Ronald Reagan. If elected president, black communities will prosper and will be given adequate health care. Not just blacks either, but every single American will be given the chance to live in a better society destroyed by the last 6 presidents. Clinton, both Bushes, Obama, Trump, and now Joe Biden. It is shameful what those men have done to this country. We have to build back our family values. Children are suffering because they don't have both parents, whether it is a father and mother, 2 mothers or 2 fathers. As president, I vow the average family will prosper in the American dream. Vice President Pence. For 4 years, I served as vice president for the American people. I served next to President Trump during the good times as well as the bad times. I led the coronavirus task force, which developed not 1 but 2 vaccines for the American people in record time. There is no other candidate up on this debate stage that is more ready to take on the mantle of president than me. I have worked in state government as governor of Indiana, as well as the legislative branch representing Indiana's 2nd district. Then the 6th district, which is now being represented by my brother Greg Pence, who is doing an excellent job representing those people. I haven't made deceitful claims of voter fraud, and I sure as heck never overstepped my boundary as vice president, like the current one is, seemingly orchestrating every decision President Biden makes. It's like Vice President Harris is serving as president. We all know we cannot stand 4 more years of endless wars, inflation, unemployment, and mandates caused by this pandemic. I ask you for your vote as I am the best candidate for the job. Governor Justice. You've probably never heard of me. Well, that's fine. My name is Jim Justice, and I am the governor of West Virginia. During my tenure, I have created millions of jobs, running companies such as Bluestone Farms, Stony Brook Plantation, Bluestone Industries, Bluestone Coal Corporation, and the Green Brewer. I saved West Virginia from going into a financial crisis, increasing the budget but not raising taxes, or cutting health and education spending. I established energy independence in the state of West Virginia, preventing the state from being a part of the nationwide gas shortage during the Biden administration. I supported all 4 stimulus packages proposed between 2020 through 2022. Under my guidance, West Virginia was the last state to have any COVID infections, the #1 state in vaccine rollouts, lowest COVID infections per capita out of any state in the Union, the first state to propose a vaccine lottery, as well as never locking down the state or requiring social distancing or masks. I have done better than any other governor on every single issue. I am the best choice to become the Republican nominee. Governor Baker. I am the Republican governor of Massachusetts, a state Joe Biden won by over double digits. I've won 3 elections in a deep blue state. Under my governorship, Massachusetts has seen better housing options, infrastructure improvement, child care vouchers. I saved multiple municipalities from going bankrupt, which would have damaged our economy beyond repair. I eliminated the state's film industry tax. The state unemployment has fallen below 3% during my time as governor during the pandemic, and one of the lowest in the nation. The Biden administration was going to throw a $765 million debt at our feet. I stepped in, and in that fiscal year, Massachusetts' budget was balanced. We had no debt that year. No other state had done that in 2022. According to the Boston Globe earlier this year, I have improved housing in Massachusetts by 22%. I have done all of this with a Democrat supermajority at my throat the entire time. I'm the most effective candidate on stage that will defeat any Democrat that steps up to me. Senator Cruz. Hello, my name is Ted Cruz. I am currently representing the great state of Texas in the Senate. He pauses to let the crowd cheer. I am the son of Cuban immigrants. I have fought for election integrity, which has sadly been rejected by many of the candidates on stage here tonight. I have fought from allowing rhinos in the Republican Party from joining the Democrats, from granting amnesty to all these illegal immigrants being brought into this country by the Biden administration, which is killing our economy, adding to our debt, and adding to our COVID numbers. Inflation is at a record high under this president, and his cabinet is a massive failure as the Taliban, radical jihadists, have taken over the Afghanistan capital of Kabul. We have been at war that was preventable for 2 years now, and no progress has been made, as now over 1 million American soldiers have died by radical Islamic terrorist hands. Biden is scared to use, quote, politically incorrect methods of destroying this Taliban once and for all, carpet bombing anywhere these jihadists are located. Senator Romney. I'm Senator Mitt Romney. I was once before the Republican nominee in 2012. I was unsuccessful. But now we have a president 20 times worse than that of Barack Obama. Joe Biden left American citizens overseas and instead brought over millions of refugees, creating yet another crisis under his administration. It is shameful he valued the lives of foreigners rather than the lives of the people he serves for. I introduced legislation many times to that would send the military over to Afghanistan and rescue the American citizens, who have now become hostages under the Taliban. Every time the Democrats have blocked it. They value the lives of foreigners than they do the American people. I ask for Republicans to once again nominate me, and I will bring the White House back to the Republican Party and rescue the hostages in Afghanistan. Senator Hawley. My name is Josh Hawley. I am the senator out of the state of Missouri. My friend Senator Romney is forgetting one detail. Is forgetting one detail about the war with Taliban. Out of everyone on stage, Mitt Romney and Ted Cruz are the only ones on stage who voted for the war with the Taliban, keeping us in the Middle East, probably for another 20 years. I voted against that war because it did not prioritize rescuing the hostages, and more so, destroying this foreign force. Essentially, the Biden administration is waging a regime change war, and when has a regime change in the Middle East ever spelled out correctly? The correct answer is never. We have spent trillions of dollars in foreign wars in the past 20 years. We could have spent that money here in America. We might not be in bad shape we are in with the dead. Senator Sununu. I'm Chris Sununu. For those of you on Twitter, I was the governor, now senator, who always poses in pictures with a cookie in my hand. When you think of the state of New Hampshire, you think of a Democrat stronghold. It's almost been 24 years since New Hampshire has voted for a Republican on the presidential level. Well, 4 years ago, I won the state of New Hampshire by over 30 points as a Republican, outperforming every Republican and Democrat that shared the ballot with me. I carried the New Hampshire GOP to having majorities in both houses of Congress, and as a Republican nominee, I will carry the Republican Party into expanding their majorities in both houses of Congress, as well as winning back the White House. Governor DeSantis. I'm Governor Ron DeSantis of the state of Florida. I am the most effective governor in the entire United States. I have done more in my first year as governor than the entire careers of the 9 other candidates on stage here tonight. I have signed an anti-riot bill that charged rioters with a federal crime with no bail. I have increased education spending in Florida, putting the students, families, and teachers first. I have increased spending to the point $7,000 is being spent per student, more than any other state in the country. I even raised teacher salaries without raising taxes. I balanced the state's budget and kept one of the best state economies during the pandemic. Mr. Carlson, I'm Tucker Carlson, and I am single-handedly responsible for several decisions made by President Trump during his administration. When Trump bombed Soleimani, he was thinking of going to war with Iraq. It was me in my show, Tucker Carlson Tonight, that made him rethink his decision to declare war, and even called me and thanked me for speaking out against going to war with Soleimani. I believe the government should not be a part of the citizens' lives. These vaccine mandates are being implemented by the left is outrageous. This is authoritarianism on the levels of Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia. We are the United States, and we believe in giving Americans a choice in whether or not they want to get a vaccine. That it wasn't even verified by the FDA until late 2021. Alicia Kune starts off the debate. First, we're going to speak on the discussion of electability. Governor Baker, you are the governor of one of the bluest states in the Union, which has proved many times that you are willing to both sign and introduce left-leaning bills. How can Republicans trust you won't sign any bills passed by Democrats if they obtain the majority? Governor Baker responds, as the governor of Massachusetts, I never raised taxes on the people of Massachusetts. We shouldn't be having a discussion of whether some of the candidates is liberal or conservative. If that were the case, Carlson was a Democrat until 2020. DeSantis has increased education spending, and Hawley supports a $15 minimum wage. Those are all liberal positions, and they are never spoken about. I'm only being called out because I am a Republican governor of a deep blue state, and it has not corrupted my ideals from the conservative nature of my party. Vice President Pence is called on to respond. Governor, I respect what you've done in the state of Massachusetts, but you are more liberal than this current president. You implemented a wealth tax in response to your huge increase in spending. So your opening statement was a lie. You did raise taxes on the people of Massachusetts. No one should be able to pay more money than everyone else because they earned that money on their own. Governor Baker responds, Mr. Vice President, during my tenure as governor, I created over 700,000 jobs, skyrocketed the economy to be one of the best in the country. I created more jobs than you did as governor of Indiana. I mean, let's talk about the fact that as vice president, you led the coronavirus task force and did a terrible job. You helped Donald Trump become the first president since Herbert Hoover to have fewer jobs coming out than he did coming in. Vice President Pence is given the final response. Well, let's talk about my accomplishments leading the coronavirus task force. I helped lead the country to getting 3 different vaccines to the virus, which dropped infection rates drastically. So tell me, Governor, what have you done to combat the virus except force mask mandates and shutting down your state leading to an economic collapse? Raymond Arroyo asks, Senator Sununu, similar question to you. So far, you've been in the Senate for about 5 months now, and so far you're the second most left-leaning voting senator, only behind Maine Senator Susan Collins. Do you think Republicans will feel disenfranchised if you become the nominee? Senator Sununu responds, well, if being the nominee would disenfranchise Republican voters, I wouldn't have been reelected to a 3rd term as governor of New Hampshire, winning over 60% of the vote, while I also helped the down-ballot Republicans win both the state Senate and the state House. I even signed a congressional map into law that gave Republicans a guaranteed seat in the House of Representatives. New Hampshire is a fiscally conservative state. I've lowered taxes in the state many times. I even sued Charlie Baker in the state of Massachusetts for trying to tax New Hampshire exports into the state. Trust me, Republicans will flourish with me at the top of the ticket. I plan on choosing a Republican who is a staunch conservative, so those worries will disappear. Governor Baker responds as his name was called on. I believe in trade that protects American businesses. Similar to President Trump, the Supreme Court even agreed with me. They denied your lawsuit against me, thus granting the states the right to implement tariffs on exports from other states to protect state businesses. Senator Sununu, you failed in trying to stop me from taxing your products, and if I had to guess, Donald Trump would side with me over you any day when it comes to this issue. Senator Sununu responds, I do not agree with the Supreme Court's ruling, and President Trump believes in free trade, same as me. He got rid of NAFTA and replaced it with his own free trade deal agreement, the USMCA. It has created millions of jobs for the United States, something your state lost during the pandemic, losing 30% of the jobs in Massachusetts during your tenure as governor. Governor Baker is given the final response. Senator Sununu, you could say the USMCA is a free trade agreement, but there are so many restrictions imposed on New Mexico and Canada. And if Canada and Mexico follow said restrictions, then the trade is free, but that is a standard protectionist trade agreement. Nothing about the USMCA should be considered free trade. David Osman asks, going on to the issue of foreign policy, Mr. Carlson, you have been very critical of President Biden during this war with the Taliban. What would have you done differently or will do differently if elected president? Mr. Carlson responds, look, we have been in the Middle East for over 2 decades now at this point. After many promises from the Biden administration that we would not go back into Afghanistan for months before declaring war on the Taliban after many failed attempts to rescue American hostages. One time he even gave the Taliban a hit list. And this president doesn't even show that he cares. Whenever he talks about this issue, he either blows it off or talks about his son Beau Biden, who did not die overseas, but died of cancer during a run for governor of Delaware. Joe Biden uses sympathy to get what he wants on this issue. All he does is say his son's name and he thinks things will get better. But I guarantee you, under a Carlson administration, those hostages will be returned to the United States one way or another. Senator Romney is called on to respond. Mr. Carlson, me and you both know we as the United States are needed to be the world leader. We cannot allow a terrorist organization to take over an entire country and keep Americans hostage. As president, I will rescue the hostages as well as defeat the Taliban and give power back to the people of Afghanistan. This is our responsibility as the world leader. Mr. Carlson responds, Mitt, you are essentially saying the United States needs to be the policeman of the world. We need to put America first. Screw what's going on in Afghanistan. We need to get those hostages out of there as quickly as possible. Then get our equipment back from those terrorists. Then leave them alone. We have absolutely no business being in Afghanistan for so long. Senator Romney is given the final response. I'm not saying we need to be the policeman of the world. I'm saying we need to lead this world by example. I've seen your show on Fox News. You have called, as well as many others on the stage, to carpet bomb civilizations in Afghanistan to what you said, quell the terrorists. How is that putting America first, using American taxpayer money to bomb innocent lives? Alicia Kunai asks, Governor DeSantis, many within the Republican Party wants to know where you stand on the issue of the war on the Taliban, since you have been very silent on the issue. Would you care to elaborate? Governor DeSantis responds, look, I think it is common sense that we need to get out of the Middle East. But I agree with my friend Tucker. We need to get those hostages back from the Taliban. They have been over there for 2 years now. It is shameful as to what this president has done to bring these hostages home, which, besides giving the Taliban a hit list, is nothing. Biden has done nothing to show that he cares about the Americans trapped. We wouldn't even have hostages to worry about if he didn't allow refugees to come to the country before our own citizens had the chance to board a plane ride home. As president, I will use drone technology to find where our citizens are, send in troops to find them, and bring them back home and make sure we never go back to Afghanistan for a long time. Raymond Arroyo asks, Senator Romney, you have said previously in the debate that America needs to be the world leader, but many of your colleagues on stage says that this is the same thing as saying that America needs to be the policeman of the world. How are those two any different? Senator Romney responds, America being the policeman of the world also means that we are enforcing our laws and ideals in other countries, which we can all agree is wrong. Every country is culturally different from one another. But being the world leader is very different. Being the world leader means that we are making sure the world is safe from terrorist organizations and that democracy is upheld in the world. Democracy allows citizens of their country to live a more happy and safe life. People from other countries will have more say in a democracy than they have their entire lives beforehand. That is why the United States needs to be the world leader. Senator Cruz is called on to respond. The United States being the leader of the world or being the policeman of the world is a distinction without a difference. Mitt, just multiple times you contradicted yourself. We cannot force democracy on countries who do not want democracy. Democracy does not work in certain places, and Asia and the Middle East is a good example of a place where democracy doesn't work. Senator Romney responds, You know, I find it very strange someone wants to run for president of the United States, a country that is a democracy, and doesn't believe democracy works everywhere. And these people want a choice. They want freedom. Their corrupt leaders are refusing to give them their basic human rights as citizenship of their country, which is the freedom of choice. Senator Cruz is given the final response. The United States is not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic with democratic proceedings. The people of the United States voted representatives that vote for them on legislation. For every branch pretty much. The executive branch, the president, is decided by the people of the United States, but it's by plurality voting instead of majority voting. The legislative branch is chosen by plurality voting as well as the judicial branch on the state level. David Osman asks, Governor Baker, along with Governor DeSantis, you have been very vague on the foreign policy issues. Will you intrigue us with your stance on the issue? Governor Baker responds, what's going on in the Middle East is a tragedy. President Biden has failed this nation. We haven't had a president who has had crisis after crisis since Jimmy Carter was in office. We need to get the hostages out of Afghanistan. Everyone on this debate stage can agree on that notion. But I'm honestly surprised that not everyone agrees that the Taliban needs to be eradicated. We need to hunt down these terrorists and install a democratic leader in the state. The Taliban has taken away basic human rights and civil liberties away from women and minorities. This isn't the 19th century anymore. We, as the world leaders, need to spread democracy all over the world so freedom can be extended to everyone on this planet. Governor Justice is called on to response. Sorry, Charlie, but we've already spent over $10 trillion in the Middle East. That is a third of our current debt. So you could say that a third of our debt is caused by how much time we spent in the Middle East. What I'm proposing right now is that we get hostages home from the Middle East, negotiate a way to get our weapons back and technology, and not pay the Taliban a dime. If they don't peacefully give us our tech back, we take it by force. Governor Baker responds, Jim, the budget and us being in the Middle East are two completely different issues. You clearly don't have a comprehensive plan to deal with the Taliban, and the sane individuals on this stage all agree we need to eradicate the Taliban so their influence doesn't spread to other countries. Thus, if we prevent that, radical Islamic terrorism will not spread. Governor Justice is given the final response. Well, I think it's time I finish my plan, which, Governor Baker, is comprehensive. Once we get the hostages and our tech from the Taliban, we bring back any troop that President Biden has deployed, then we rebuild America with the money that we're going to use in Afghanistan. I also support lowering our military budget so we can use that money in places in America, like an actual infrastructure bill. Alicia Kune asks, Governor DeSantis, President Biden and President Trump both had different policies in regard to Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump eased any tension and strengthened diplomatic relations with the country of Russia, while Joe Biden has made little contact with Putin and Russia. As president, which route will you take in regard to Vladimir Putin? Governor DeSantis responds, obviously President Biden sure as hell didn't have a plan for Russia, but here's the truth. Russia should be one of our greatest allies in both domestic policies and in trade. As president, I will strengthen relations and appoint someone as Secretary of State who shares my values and strengthen our relations with Russia. This isn't the 20th century anymore. We are not in the Cold War. We are not in a space race. These are relatively peaceful times compared to the past. Why do we need to continue butting heads with someone we are not fighting anymore? Senator Romney is called on to respond. Become allies with Vladimir Putin? Are you serious? So you're saying we should forget all about the half a century worth of infighting and the constant worry that Russia would nuke us? There are many Americans right now who still have that worry. Vladimir Putin is a tyrant who changed his country's constitution so he could stay in power. He is a thug and the United States should not be an ally of that man. Governor DeSantis responds, we as a country cannot be stuck in the past forever. What's happened with us in Russia has been over since the 1980s. Both of our countries have evolved drastically and it's time we set aside our differences. The United States and Russia could accomplish so many things as allies: climate, infrastructure, ensuing safety around the world, establishing energy independence, and more. Senator Romney is given the final response. Look at what you are saying, Ron. Allying ourselves with a dictator like Putin would hold us down as a major power. What if Vladimir Putin decides to invade a country we are aligned with? What then? There is more to foreign policy than saying, oh, we're just going to become allies with whoever we like. You have to think about what the consequences of said alliance would be. Raymond Arroyo asks, Senator Hawley, you have been very critical of China in the past. As president, what is going to be your policy towards China as either an ally and a threat? Senator Hawley responds, there is a very, very thin gray area in between ally and a threat, and we need to put China directly in that gray area. With China as a diplomatic and a major trade ally of the United States, we need a trade policy that is fair to small businesses in this country, which is why I support throwing tariffs on any country that doesn't want a two-way street deal. If we allow ourselves to China, we can deal with what's going on in Taiwan and Hong Kong. We need to use diplomatic action on China, nothing aggressive, Any sort of physical aggression towards China will lead to the end of this world as we know it. Senator Romney is called on to response. First, we have Ron saying we should be allies with Russia. Now I've got Holly here saying to strengthen our relations with another dictator-led country. This time China? In regard to Taiwan and Hong Kong, China is never going to negotiate. That's what dictators do. They take away the rights of innocent people for their own benefit, and nothing will change that. Senator Hawley responds, You know, it's troubling to me that you're going to all the trouble of running for president and then spend most of the debate calling our potential allies names and saying that change is impossible. You've already lost a winnable election against Barack Obama. What, are you trying to lose another winnable election, but this time to Joe Biden? Senator Romney is given the final response. Look, Senator Hawley, I have more integrity than any other person on this stage. I'm not mentally deranged. I never bungled up a pandemic response. I never switched parties, especially for personal gains. I ran a blue state on a legitimate conservative agenda. I never claimed fraud when I lost an election, and my voting record proves so. I am not a baseless conspiracy theorist. I am the best person on any debate stage to become the president. David Osmond asks, Senator Sununu, there is surely a lot to unpack here, so here's your question. America is seen as the laughingstock of the world, as many feel. How will you be able to strengthen our country's image in the world? Senator Sununu responds, Well, I think it is clear we are the laughingstock of the world. The reason for that is because we are being represented by a man who isn't cognitively here. He has a hard time walking up the stairs, let alone creating a coherent sentence. We should be worried about what 4 more years of democratic rule would look like. Our country's foreign policy is in shambles because we have a weak leader. A simple fix for this is to elect a strong leader who will put Americans, as well as American businesses, first, not other countries' interests or the interests of mega corporations. The Biden administration is in so much shambles that the Vice President Harris isn't even the frontrunner in the Democrat primary. It really shows how unpopular these people are with average Americans. Alicia Kune asks, Going towards the issue of the death penalty, Mr. Carlson, you are the only one of 2 on this debate stage who opposes the death penalty. Why oppose this in a party that strongly supports it? Mr. Carlson responds, I am adamantly against the use of the death penalty, just as much as I am against abortions. You should never take the life of another person, no matter the crime. Plus, it's also an easy way out for a lot of criminals. Most criminals want the death penalty and will ask for it. There was a criminal who was charged with 3rd-degree manslaughter. He asked to be given the death penalty and the judge denied him. So while he was serving his sentence in prison, on camera, he killed a nearby prison mate with a shirt. The judge moved him to another facility instead of giving him the death sentence, and he killed again until he was given the death sentences. Killers, pedophiles, and rapists should be put in a padded room for the rest of their life and never walk in the light again. Senator Sununu was called on to respond. As governor, I veto a bill that would have ended the death penalty in the state of New Hampshire. Tucker just pointed out why we need the death penalty. If we don't give the death penalty to killers, they'll just continue to murder in and out of prison. There is no redemption for those who willingly take a life of another person. Mr. Carlson responds, Senator Sununu, that bill you're talking about, your veto was overridden by the New Hampshire state legislature, and Democrats don't have a supermajority in either house. Republicans voted to override your bill, Sununu. That means you are on the wrong side of this issue. If your own party votes against you, I will adamantly defend abolishing the death penalty to the death of me. Senator Sununu is given the final chance to respond. Those Republicans do not define the New Hampshire Republican Party, or the Republican Party in general. Mr. Carlson, neither do you. You are a strong voice in the Republican Party, but your policy suggestions are more in line with Democrats. It doesn't surprise me considering you were a Democrat up until 2020. You didn't even support Donald Trump in 2016. You supported Jim Webb of all people. Raymond Arroyo asks, Senator Cruz, you as well as many others on this stage support the death penalty. You are a major proponent as Solicitor General of Texas of the death penalty. Why do you believe the death penalty is needed? Senator Cruz responds, Senator Sununu said it best, if we get rid of the death penalties, our streets all across the country, it will look like the summer riots all over again. Murderers, rapists, pedophiles, thieves will have gang wars in the streets. It will be a legitimate purge in this country. Even if we keep those people in prison for the rest of their lives, they will only continue to kill other inmates, some of which are unjustly imprisoned by leftist judges. There is a due process for using the death penalty against criminals, and the Supreme Court have even come to that decision, and I will stand by the court's decision. Mr. West is called on to respond. We are the Republican Party, the party of Christianity, and one of the 10 Commandments says, "Thou shalt not kill." This is the biggest reason I am pro-life, as well as a supporter of ending the death penalty. We should never take a life of another human being, no matter what they have done in their life. Let's allow God to decide their fates when their judgment day comes. And I agree with Tucker, it's the easy way out for many criminals. Senator Cruz responds, Mr. West, I do agree that we as the Republican Party should be the party of Christianity, but 71% of Christians in the United States support the death penalty. Saying that God did not want the government to execute those who have sinned themselves is asinine. The Bible also says for us to obey the law of the land, and our law states that those who commit violent crimes may be executed. Mr. West is given a final chance to respond. I'm not saying that I'm going to force my religious views on other Christians. And you were correct, Senator Cruz. 71% of Christians support the death penalty. Here's another statistic you might like. 57% of Christians in the United States support abortions that aren't restricted from rape, incest, and the threat of a mother's life. So what I'm saying is that when we speak on political issues and religion pops up, Christians don't talk about their religion whenever politics is brought up. David Osmond asks, Governor Baker, you were in support of the death penalty whenever someone murders a police officer. Do you think there are more reasons to use the death penalty beyond that? Governor Baker responds, first of all, I think there are more important issues than talking about the death penalty, but to answer your question, yes, there are absolutely more situations where the death penalty should be used. If you commit a violent crime more than once, you should be given the death penalty. It makes this country so much safer, knowing we have one less thug in the street. A majority of Americans support the death penalty. It has been a successful way of lowering crime in the entire world since the beginning of human history. There's hardly been a time in history where it has failed. Ilusha Kune asks, going towards, in many people's opinion, the most important issue, the economy. I'm going to ask every single candidate on stage what they will do to end this ever-decreasing economy the United States has had. Mr. Carlson, first with you. Mr. Carlson responds, it is true I used to be a supporter of libertarian economics, but I've evolved on that issue. Now I support populist economics. Market capitalism is not a religion, and Republicans are seemingly controlled by the banks. Economic and technological change can cause a social and political upheaval. Any economic system that benefits the ruling class is no economy worth saving. We need an economy where the lower and working class are the ones in control. Too long have they been controlled by the wealthy elites, and as we've seen with President Biden and his economy, whenever the elites fuck up, the average American is the one who pays for it. Governor DeSantis is called on. The way we reduce the federal deficit is simple. We need to shift our emphasis from tax increases to curtailing spending and triggering economic growth. How we do this is we need to energize our citizens to go out there and get jobs. That means stop increasing government program spending that we need to lower inflation. We need to impose tariffs on companies that will not decrease their prices, especially companies outside the United States. We have plenty of jobs in this country. There are just people who have become dependent on the government for nearly monthly stimulus checks to hold them off for a couple of days. Then they go back to begging for more money to be printed off. This kills our economy. Senator Sununu was called on. I believe we need to eliminate the tax on dividends and interest income. That tax unfairly targets senior citizens that living off those types of income, as well as their retirement accounts. As governor of New Hampshire, I have dropped taxes by record amounts, more so than any other governor in history within this country. I think we should give businesses tax cuts, only if they lower their prices on goods beforehand. If they raise their prices at all, we raise their taxes. That is how we end this inflation crisis. I oppose Democrat legislation that would increase taxes on the citizens of New Hampshire, and those people rewarded my efforts by re-electing me in a landslide. Senator Hawley, our economy is so fragile right now. Ever since President Biden has taken over the post of the president, the economy has gone to hell. At any moment, we can go into an economic depression. As president, I will not sign any budget that doesn't end up balancing. I'd even take Governor DeSantis' plan of no budget, no pay, to guarantee we end up with a balanced budget. I also think that the budget should go into paying off our debt. In order for our debt to be paid off in 8 years, if one of us on stage is elected and serves 2 full terms, we would have to spend $4 trillion in order to pay off all that debt in that time. $4 trillion a year, I mean. Senator Romney. As president, I would focus on our ever-increasing unemployment. Right now, our unemployment sits at 18.3%, highest since the Great Depression. We are even getting close to going into a depression again under this administration. We need to encourage Americans to get a job, get them excited about working, give funding to our small businesses. I even support a tax on businesses that don't lower their prices. That, in my eyes, is the best way to fight this inflation crisis that President Biden has handed us to this country, and has done nothing but blame Republicans for his screw-ups. Senator Cruz, we need free trade policy to help get this country out of the slump it is in. Other countries can't afford a protectionist trade policy. If we went on with a barter system with other countries with our ambassadors, we could get supplies we need quicker and much cheaper. We need to implement a flat tax in this country. It will eliminate the confusion of our current tax system. It will reduce the tax preparation costs. It will eliminate supplemental taxes. It will encourage economic growth. It will eliminate the self-employment tax, which is killing at-home jobs. This system has proven as a success on the national level, and it promotes local spending and small business growth. One thing we sure as hell don't need is a higher minimum wage. If you want inflation to get worse, then sure, raise the minimum wage. But I have the concerns of the American people on my mind first and foremost, and the people want to see an end to inflation. Governor Baker. Under my leadership, Massachusetts has one of the best economies in the country. I eliminated the film industry tax in 2016. We need to encourage Americans seeking a job to go out there filling out applications to jobs. We need Americans to stop relying on the government to give them unemployment benefits. That creates laziness in this country. We cannot be the country of laziness. These leftists criticize us Republicans for introducing common sense legislation because they don't want to get up and get a job and get a life. Governor Justice. The Republican Party needs to support the coal industry. President Biden and the Democrats are trying to kill millions of jobs in this country by abolishing the use of coal in this country. The Rust Belt and certain parts of the South largely rely on coal as a source of economic growth, and if you get rid of coal, these states' economies will crash fast. We need to increase spending to get any sort of conservatism done in this country. If we increase spending, we can do so much for this country. An infrastructure plan that actually fixes our troubles with infrastructure would be a good start. Our country is dying, and us as Republicans are the last hope to fix this country within the next 4 years. This forever pandemic is over, but the Democrats want to continue to push the narrative that vaccine works when the CDC has already stated that they don't. Vice President Pence. We need to limit spending in this country. Biden has spent trillions of dollars, which has led to an increase in unemployment as well as an increase to inflation. We need to cut taxes for the average American and force these businesses to lower their prices, or as many people on stage have already stated, tax them until they do so. As governor of Indiana, I balanced budgets and cut taxes. The economy under my leadership was grand, and Indianans are living in prosperity, still to this day. I was the vice president during a time when the United States had the best economy and the lowest unemployment since Ronald Reagan. I have proven that I am the only candidate on stage who can fix this broken economy. Mr. West. We need to get people back to work. As president, I would go to every single county and set up a county-wide job fair, so people who are looking for a job can get an interview that day and start working as soon as possible. I would lower the costs of getting an ID. That's one of the main reasons some people can't get a job, because they don't have enough money to get an ID. But after all that, I'm cutting all unemployment benefits for people who are eligible to get a job, only keeping benefits for the elderly, disabled, sick, or injured. This is common sense, something a lot of people don't have, and it is a shame. We are now going on to closing statements, starting off with Mr. West. I'm very upset that I wasn't given more time to speak. I've created more jobs as a businessman than any other politician here on stage. This isn't the last time you will see me on the main stage. I guarantee that I will be the nominee, defeat whatever crooked, racist, corrupt establishment crony the Democrats nominate, and become one of the greatest presidents in this country's history. Republicans need to appeal not just to rural America, but all of America, and I am the candidate for the job. Vice President Pence. I served as Vice President under one of the best economies in the country. As governor of Indiana, I fought for our First Amendment rights of religious freedom by protecting small businesses from woke LGBT activists. I have more experience working in both the executive and legislative branches than any other person on stage. I protected election integrity when rioters stormed the Capitol building, preventing an election from being overturned unjustly. I will put the American people first and end this corrupt wokeness spreading to our children. Governor Justice. You don't hear too much about West Virginia, so let me tell you what's going on there. West Virginia was the last state to get a COVID infection, was the state with the lowest infection rate per capita, state with the best vaccination rollout, one of several states with declining COVID numbers. We never locked down the state or implemented a mask mandate, and we sure as hell not a vaccine mandate. We were also the first state to introduce a vaccine lottery. We protected the white working class and blue-collar jobs. This all happened under my supervision. And I got more votes than Donald Trump in the 2020 election down ballot. West Virginia has never been more prosperous, and I can make America just as great. Governor Baker. I was a Republican governor of a state that Joe Biden won by over 30 points in 2020. As a nominee, I can win the GOP, the Rust Belt, parts of the Northeast such as Maine, New Hampshire, as well as Massachusetts. I can win back the states of Arizona and Georgia. I have proven time and time again that I am the most electable candidate. Since being elected as governor, there hasn't been a Democrat that has beaten me, not even in the legislature. I vetoed a bill that would have increased taxes for the people of Massachusetts, and replaced it with a bill that increases spending while cutting taxes and balancing the budget. I trust the Republican primary voters will choose the best candidate, and I hope that is me. Senator Cruz. I am a proven fighter in the Senate. I have proven that for over a decade I helped pass immigration reform. Pushed to ban critical race theory, which is a theory that makes our black children feel like victims and our white children feel like they are responsible for all the trouble in the world. I am pushing back against cultural Marxism the Democrats are trying to throw at us. Every single Democrat running to replace this awful president will be just as bad, if not worse. We do not need another socialist in the White House. We are on the verge of going into a depression for the first time since the Great Depression, all because of Joe Biden's totalitarian rule. I am Ted Cruz, and I will fight for all of the American people. Senator Romney. I have proven in the past that I can win elections. I won the 2012 Republican primary, won 2 governor races in the blue state of Massachusetts, as well as a senator race in Utah. I have more experience in the government than anyone else on stage here tonight. I am more equipped to take on the job of president. I will take on both of the radical wings of the Republican and Democrat parties. Fascists and socialists are taking over this country. If we let them take control, the United States will look like Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia rolled up into one. We must not let that happen. We must bring civility back to the United States, and I am the man to do that. Senator Hawley. We have a president that has destroyed America. He has abandoned Americans in Afghanistan for them to be in constant fear as the Taliban could murder them at any point. Inflation has risen by record levels, and this recession is only getting worse. We could even go into a depression, and the white working class and our minorities have been forced into poverty because of the dangerous socialist policies implemented by this administration. Nominate me and I will go up against the Democrats and force them to answer to the American people why they didn't do anything to fix any of these problems. Senator Sununu. I was re-elected as the Republican governor of New Hampshire in a landslide in 2020, carrying the New Hampshire GOP into supermajorities in both legislative houses. I did it in New Hampshire, and I can carry Republicans into supermajorities in 2024. I will bring the best economy, the lowest unemployment, balanced budgets, and tax cuts, and increased spending. I've done it once, I can do it just as easily as the President of the United States. Along with Senator Larry Hogan, I helped Republicans regain the United States Senate in 2024. I've done a lot in my short time in government. I hope you will consider me for the nomination. Governor DeSantis. I've done more in my first day as governor than Joe Biden has in his 50 years of working in government. Think about that. 50 years. He's been here for half a century and has only brought disasters with him everywhere he goes. Biden was against integrated busing to school, praised segregation leaders in the past, plagiarized famous speeches, crime bills that increased the crime rate with black Americans who were unjustly punished for petty drug crimes. He left Americans in Afghanistan so they could be held hostage by the Taliban, and we are going into a depression. As president, I will strengthen the lives of our minorities in this country. I will bring the hostages back from Afghanistan, by force if I have to. and bring our country back into economic prosperity. Mr. Carlson, at first I didn't want to run for president because you would have to be insane to actually want this job. But the more damage I saw Joe Biden do to this country, as well as the uniparty establishment from the Republicans and Democrats, I can't sit back anymore and just watch this amazing country get turned into hell itself. We need to reform every single aspect of the government. I call it the Red New Deal. Government reforms such as draining the swamp by adding term limits to Congress and the Supreme Court, and changing the presidential term limits from 2 terms to 3 terms. It also involves an immigration moratorium, strengthening family values, pro-protectionist trade, pro-Second Amendment gun legislation, and education reform that permanently bans critical race theory. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to fill out this episode's poll. You can still fill out the episode 6 poll as well. Leave a review of the debate in the comments. They'll be shown in the next video. Sorry I haven't uploaded in a while. I haven't had time due to school and work. Also, go follow my Twitter @ChaoticPolitics. This is the Chaotic One saying peace.